What would you say to an individual who doubts their effectiveness in the grand scheme of climate change compared to big corporations?
We have to start somewhere, and we have to all do something small. And then, in the grand scheme of things, I think that will make a big impact.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Sam, and I think one of the things that I'm often telling people is that every single step counts. And even the smallest action, you talking to your neighbor, you talking to your family members, that is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I'd also say having empathy for people all over the world is also empathy for your community. And we are all using the same water, we're all using the same air. And so when we learn to respect the natural environment and ecology, we're having respect for everyone on this planet and every living thing.
Yeah, and I think just don't underestimate your own power. And even though it's a big corporation, it's the federal government at times, of course.
Right.
We have already seen the needle move, and we've seen that power of community coming together around an issue. And people will listen, and the ways that we operate in the world in terms of how we coexist with nature, how we consider community will change and is changing. And never doubt that, never underestimate that, because it can, does, and is happening right now.
Taking a small one. Can you talk about the urgency and timeline of climate change?
This is a tough one because this is a really urgent crisis, but it's also happening over a long time frame. And some of the solutions that we're proposing to deal with the effects of climate change take a long time to implement. And so the urgency of the crisis does not match the timeline in which we can find solutions. And there's also a tension, I think, between getting a lot of community input and moving quickly. And oftentimes we're pushed to just move quickly, but it may be in the wrong direction. And so even though it may take more time to develop those solutions with the community, you are making a long-term investment that the way forward is going to work for where you live.
One of the things that we advocate for at the Water Collaborative is always connecting to community. But when you speak to people and you work with them, you create sustainable solutions that can actually reverse and oftentimes reverse climate change.
At the end of the day, we need funding. And it is sort of the biggest issue in the climate space is that we get the smallest amount of funding is the environment. I think it's 4% of donations around the world go to the environment.
That's ridiculous.
And that's, we need a huge shift in funding if we want to beat climate change.
Yeah.
But luckily, I think we're surrounded by people that are doing the good fight, fighting the good fight, and hopefully more people support this movement.
I think they will. They need to see people like us and know that they're not alone in the fight.
Yeah, I think one other thing.
This is a great conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting. Most of the time when we speak about, I think, the climate crisis, we speak about the environment. And the climate crisis is not just an environment problem, it's a human issue.
That's right.
And when we really connect to the human being and how many people are being displaced, the millions and billions of people that are having to flee their countries because of environmental disasters, really talking about how humans are impacted, I think that is where we can start to shift the needle and get these billions of dollars invested in this industry and in the work that we're doing.
Responding to the disaster is orders of magnitude more expensive than preventing the damage
the
in the first place.
proactiveness is key.
And we're looking at potentially the most expensive problem the world has ever known. And so we need to make sure that we're being proactive and not waiting until after the disasters have happened to make these investments we know we need.
I think one of the things I'm hopeful about is that no matter how fast the climate crisis is happening, if you give nature time to rest, it will bounce back within a matter of months. Like we saw it during COVID when everyone was at home.
That's right.
And we weren't polluting the earth as much. Nature came back, and for the first time, in India and Pakistan, you could see the Himalayas because there was no smoke and there was no toxic chemicals in the air. And we're seeing the same thing in Indonesia with the work we're doing, cleaning rivers every single day for now 3 years. Rivers that were covered in plastics that had essentially no oxygen in the water anymore. After cleaning up the rivers every day for 3 years, the rivers are now clean and fish populations have come back.
That's amazing.
So, and it's just like, nature
Yeah.
thriving, and it's really just, it knows how to bounce back. We just have to give it time and
Yeah.
give it the opportunity to thrive.
And let nature do her job.
Yeah.
There's a similar thing when Mississippi River, she creates her own tributaries, right? And for the first time ever, the Mississippi River, not the first time ever, but in the recent years, created a new passageway called Neptune Pass.
Wow.
And I visited it, and it's amazing how healthy and all the wildlife and the fish and the alligators are just there. And you hear the birds, and we sat there silently in the boat, and you can hear everything singing and the crickets. And that, to your point, is if we let nature do its job,
Yeah.
then everything, it will be better, and it can be better.